Hello once again, dear children. We're looking at some questions on the ear, and I'll give you a minute to just work out what these labels A to F are. You can write down the labels in a book that you have, and then we'll proceed to the questions. I'll just magnify it a bit to make it easier for you to look at. All right. So we're focusing on this particular diagram. So do you have the labels? Let's go. Label A, auditory canal. Label B, this is now all part of your middle ear. It's not specifically pointing to any particular structure. Label C, your snail-like cochlea. Remember, inside this you've got your organ of Corti. Label D, auditory nerve from the cochlea. It'll go to the cerebrum. Label E, eustachian tube, which equalizes the air pressure on either sides of the tympanic membrane. This particular one here, let's just color him a bit, okay? Think we can color him a bit. Okay. There we go. There we go. So that is now your tympanic membrane. So your tympanic membrane, that is the one that vibrates and transmits the vibrations to these ossicles, your hammer, anvil, stirrup. And the function of E is to equalize the air pressure on either sides of the tympanic membrane. F, my darlings, that is your round window, isn't that so? And that one serves to absorb the extra pressure waves set up in the inner ear. So remember, all of these structures here form part of the inner ear. One function of A, of course, the auditory canal allows the vibrations to pass through so that it will allow the tympanic membrane to vibrate. Okay? Write down only the letter of the part where sound is transmitted in the form of a pressure wave, you know? So I told you, what did I say to you? That pressure wave, my dear children, the pressure wave is only in the fluid, isn't that so? Other than that, it's your sound waves or your vibrations. So the pressure wave only occurs when it travels through fluid, and fluid is only found in your inner ear. So write down only the letter of the part where sound is transmitted in the form of a pressure wave would be C. Write down only the letter of the part where sound is transmitted in the form of an electrical impulse. Of course, it will be D, as that is a nerve. Explain the effect if the receptors in C are damaged. Oh my goodness, my darlings, you know that the receptors here are sensitive to those pressure waves, and impulses are created and taken by the auditory nerve to the cerebrum. Now, if you do what I've just done, telling the examiner what the receptor does, you'll get 0 because they're asking you explain the effect if they are damaged. So if the receptors are damaged, what is the name of the receptor here, by the way? Organ of Corti. If the organ of Corti is damaged, then no impulse will be created. So the pressure waves can come here. Are you with me? Neither will that, there will not be any stimulation because you have no receptors or they are damaged. And no impulse will be created. No impulse will be carried by this auditory nerve to the cerebrum, and there will be no sensation of hearing. 3 marks. Describe how the parts of the middle ear, including the membranes, assist with amplifying sounds. Amplify means make the sound even more intense, louder. Simply put, louder. So how do the parts of the middle ear assist with amplifying sounds, my darlings, this is all your middle ear. Hmm? And the parts that assist with amplifying sounds is your tympanic membrane and your oval window. Now, how do they help in amplifying sound? Is that your oval window has a smaller surface area compared to your tympanic membrane. So you are having a large structure vibrating, and the vibrations are now being passed to a smaller structure that will assist in amplifying the vibration. Okay? Because the oval window has a much smaller surface area than the tympanic membrane, the vibrations are amplified. Secondly, they say that as you go from the hammer, anvil to stirrup, you are going from the large to the smaller bone. They are in decreasing size. They arrange in a decreasing size. So because you're going from a larger bone to a smaller bone, that also serves to amplify the vibrations. And yet in another text, they speak about the hammer, anvil, and stirrup articulating with each other. Now, articulating means, my darlings, that there's like a limited movement, but decidedly a kind of movement, a kind of flexibility that allows vibrations to be amplified. So because the hammer, anvil, and stirrup articulate with each other, that also helps in amplifying the vibration as the vibration travels from the hammer to the anvil to the stirrup. Okay. Describe the role played by the semicircular canals in maintaining balance. Of course, you remember it as sac, isn't it? So the semicircular canals have got the ampulla inside it. It's got the cristae. Cristae are sensitive to the speed and direction of movement. And when the speed and the direction of the movement changes, the cristae are stimulated. Impulses are created, carried by the auditory nerve to the cerebellum. And the cerebellum will now send impulses down to your muscles to restore balance. As I said to you, you must know these things off by heart. Here we go, my darlings. Question 20 represents a part of a human ear. Now, which part is it? So let's look at this. And go back here. It represents this part here. Your inner ear. Okay. So identify A, of course, that is your round window. D would be your, once again, your cochlea. Inside this is your organ of Corti. So please don't label this as organ of Corti. Organ of Corti is found inside the cochlea. Remember, it is a receptor and must be protected. By the way, my darlings, whenever those receptors that we spoke about are stimulated, it is because there is a fluid that is found inside all of these structures called endolymph. And only when the endolymph moves will receptors be stimulated. So when the endolymph moves in the semicircular canal, when the endolymph moves in the sacculus and utriculus, when the endolymph moves in the cochlea, that's when receptors will be stimulated. Name the receptors found in part B, of course, semicircular canal. Remember sac I taught you, the C standing for cristae. Explain the consequence to the human body if part C is damaged. Oh my goodness. So they actually asking you, if they ever say to you, explain the consequence if something is damaged. In other words, what are they asking you? They're asking you, what is the function of this part? They want to test to see if you know what role is played by the part. So don't say part C carries the impulses to the cerebrum. You'll never get a mark. So if part C is damaged, means no impulses will be carried from the ear to the cerebrum. And thus you will not be able to hear. You won't have the sensation of hearing because no impulse will be interpreted. Remember, the impulse is carried to the cerebrum, it is interpreted, and then you have the sensation of hearing. So once again, impulses will not be carried to the cerebrum, thus no impulse will be interpreted, and you will not have the sensation of hearing. If part A becomes hardened, what is part A again? It is your round window. Now, the purpose of the round window is to absorb the extra pressure waves set up in the inner ear, and that prevents distortion of sound in the inner ear. So if it is hardened, first of all, it will not serve its function in absorbing the pressure waves because it will not be able to vibrate. So if it's hardened, it will not be able to vibrate. The pressure waves or extra pressure waves in the inner ear will not be able to be absorbed, and hearing will be impaired. Use the word impaired. Don't say you will not hear. Hearing would be impaired. Means not deaf, but you will also not hear properly. Is that okay, children? Now let's look at the next question. Study the diagram of the human ear again. See, once you go through these questions, you'd find that similar things are being asked. And don't expect the examiners to reinvent the wheel. They will also check whether you have this understanding, which was expected of students who came prior to you as well. Study the diagram, identify B. There we go, B. Let's bring that little torch down to make it easier for you, darlings. Okay. So let's see this part B. There's our spotlight. There we go. So part B, this is your nerve, isn't it? So various branches and forming this one nerve that's going up. So that will be your auditory nerve. And D would be your, oh, they're asking about him again, your round window. Which part of the brain will receive impulses from part C? So part C is once again your cochlea. Cochlea is to do with hearing, and hearing is a sensation. So which part of the brain will receive impulses from your sense organs and interpret it? It will be your cerebrum. That's one of the functions of cerebrum is so. Describe the role of the semicircular canals in maintaining balance. We've done it before. You just look at that answer again. Straightforward theory. Describe how an increased production of mucus in the nose and throat may lead to the bursting of part E. There we go. Now, what happens, we said the eustachian tube opens up into your throat. So when you have a sore throat, my darling, the mucus travels up here. Now, when the mucus fills up this area here, you find that the eustachian tube would not be able to suck up any air or to expel any air. Now, when does it need to do that? It needs to either expel or suck up air when the air pressure on both sides of the tympanic membrane is not equal. So if there's a certain air pressure pushing down here, we cannot do anything about this air pressure because it's coming from the outside, but we can do something about what's inside. So this opens up inside of our throat. So normally, if there's a severe air pressure pressing down on your tympanic membrane, and when does it do it? For example, if you're skydiving, if you're skydiving, you're coming from a area right up in the sky and coming closer to the earth, the air pressure is severe on your eardrums. So what must happen is that you must suck up air here into your eustachian tube to equalize that air pressure. Now, if you don't suck up that air, you'd find that that severe air pressure placed on this tympanic membrane here can actually cause it to burst. So let's go back to our question. Describe how an increased production of mucus may lead to the bursting. So that mucus will now fill up this eustachian tube, and thus you would not be able to suck in air or expel air to equalize the air pressure on either sides of the tympanic membrane. That's how you can cause the bursting of the tympanic membrane. Explain why fusion of structure A may lead to hearing loss. Of course, these are your ossicles, and that's so hammer, anvil, stirrup. Now, if they fuse, my darlings, that means they cannot vibrate properly, and that means vibrations will not be transmitted effectively to your inner ear. Your organ of Corti will not be effectively stimulated, and hearing can be impaired, or you can even lose that sensation of hearing. You with me? So they will not be able to cause this oval window to vibrate effectively. That's what they are saying. So if they hardened, they will not be able to cause this oval window to vibrate effectively. And if the oval window doesn't vibrate effectively, then your vibrations will not be transmitted effectively in the form of pressure waves into the inner ear. Your organ of Corti will not be effectively stimulated, and you'd find that impulses will not be created and taken up to the cerebrum. Okay, so you could suffer the problem of deafness. Question number 22, I said I must just show this to you, my dear children. I just like to show that to you because this is a possible essay question. A possible essay question. And remember, all your essays are structured essays. Structured essays means you have to write about 2 or 3 or even 4 different things in that essay. This is not like an English essay where you write an introduction and body and conclusion. Here you have subheadings, depending on what they ask you about. So let's see what they're asking you about here. A goalkeeper, let's use our spotlight again one more time so that we can focus on certain things here. A goalkeeper in a soccer match prevented a goal from being scored. Ooh, he must have been good. He must have played for Liverpool. When he dived to his right, after the ball was kicked towards him, just before he dived, he heard his teammate shout, "Your ball." Okay. Describe how his eye adjusted to see the ball as it traveled towards him. Now, as the ball is traveling towards him, that means the ball is closer to his eye. So we're going to describe accommodation for an object which is close to the eye. Are you with me? So when an object is close to the eye, that is near vision, you talk about all the things we learned about in near vision there. So you'll put down there, you can even put a subheading, how his eyes adjusted, and right below that about near vision. Remember how did we remember near vision? CC, SLS, LB. Your ciliary muscles contracted, the suspensory ligaments slackened, the tension on the lens decreased, the lens became more biconvex to refract the light rays even more until they meet on the yellow spot on the retina. Impulses are created, taken up to the cerebrum where the impulse is interpreted. Okay. Second part, describe how he heard. Oh, this is straightforward hearing, isn't it so? Pat has OCAR, the pinna, the auditory canal, the tympanic membrane go with that mnemonic. So now we use 2 mnemonics. And how he maintained his balance. So second subheading will be about hearing. Third subheading about how he maintained his balance. And as I said to you, write about the semicircular canals SAC and the SUM. The sacculus and utriculus got the maculae, and the semicircular canals has got the cristae. Write that whole thing. So this entire essay is level 1, my children. It is level 1. Thus, you should be able to score 20 out of 20 for this. 17 marks for the content and 3 marks for 1, how logical is the explanation? Have you written about all 3 of them? And the third one, have you made any errors in any of them? So if it's completely error-free, then you will get that 1 mark. If your train of thought was logical, you'll get the other mark. If you've written about each one of them, then you'll get your 3rd mark. That is your synthesis. So when it comes to your essay, don't forget you can begin with your essay just in case you think you'd forget all your work. Begin with your essay and then go to your multiple choice, etc. I hope this has given you some insight into answering your questions. And in the next time that I see you, I promise to have many more questions on nervous coordination, just to introduce you to all types of questions so that you'll be fully prepared for that paper. God bless until I see you again.